The Duluth, Winnipeg and Pacific Railway is a subsidiary railroad of Canadian National Railway operating in northern Minnesota, United States. A CN system-wide rebranding beginning in 1995 has seen the DWP logo and name largely replaced by its parent company. The DWP line is CN's connection between International Falls and Duluth, Minnesota, where the railroad connects to a short stretch of the former Duluth, Missabe Line Range Railway before following the former Wisconsin Central to Chicago, Illinois. In 1970, DW&amp reported 792 million ton-miles of revenue freight and no passenger miles. At the end of that year it operated 170 miles of road and 232 miles of track. History. The Duluth, Virginia and Rainy Lake Railway started construction at Virginia, Minnesota in 1901, with the line extending north to Sand Lake, Minnesota, when the company was purchased by the Canadian Northern Railway, who renamed it the Duluth, Rainy Lake and Winnipeg Railway. Construction continued through 1908 to extend the line north to Rainier, Minnesota, where the DW&amp bridged the Rainy River on the Canada-United States border to cross into Fort Frances, Ontario, and an interchange with the CNOR main line between Winnipeg, Manitoba, and Port Arthur, Ontario. In 1909, CNOR incorporated the Duluth, Winnipeg and Pacific Railway, and construction started to achieve access south from Virginia, Minnesota, to Duluth, Minnesota. Duluth was reached in 1912, providing interchange with several U.S. railways. The DW&amp main line ran for 167 miles from Duluth Junction at Fort Frances to DW&amp Junction. Following the bankruptcy of the CNOR system and its subsequent nationalization by Canada's federal government under the Canadian National Railways, the DW&amp was maintained as an important connection for CNR to the upper Midwestern states. During the post-war era, the DW&amp line was upgraded to handle an increase in freight and unit train traffic, such as potash, lumber and paper. In 1960, CNR changed its name to Canadian Canadians National and introduced a radical new paint scheme and logo. At the same time, DW&amp was changed to just DWP and given a logo of similar flowing design to the CN Noodle. CN's other U.S. subsidiary, her Trunk Western Railroad, also underwent a similar name acronym change to her Trunk Western. DWP began to play an increasingly important role for CN in the 1990s, following the implementation of the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement, and later the North American Free Trade Agreement, which contributed to increases in Canadian exports south and US imports north. The DWP provided the most direct connection from CN's Western Canadian trackage to the major US interchanges at Chicago, Illinois. However, unlike rival Canadian Pacific Railway, which had its own Sioux Line Railroad subsidiary trackage to use, CN was forced to interchange with U.S. railroads at Duluth, such as Great Northern or Wisconsin Central Limited. In the mid-1990s, CN and WC entered into a formal agreement whereby WC agreed to haul CN trains to Chicago. The mid-1990s also saw a major change in how U.S. subsidiaries like DWP and GT fit into CN's corporate structure, whereby in 1993-1994, CN changed the name of its entire system to CN North America and began a major locomotive and freight car repainting program which saw the GT and DWP logos and names disappear. with only the holding company, her trunk corporation, remaining on paper and legal documents. In 1995, the CNNA experiment ended and the name Canadian National, Canadians National, with the CN acronym returned. Only system-wide in both countries. On November 28, 1995, Canada's federal government privatized CN and its U.S. subsidiaries. In 2001, CN entered into an agreement to purchase WC entirely on October 21 of that year, providing CN with an iron lariat encircling the industrially important Great Lakes Basin. The only gap in CN's Winnipeg-Fort Frances International Falls Chicago mainline route was a short 17-kilometer section in Duluth where CN had to operate on the Duluth, Missabe Range Railway to reach WC trackage from the end of DWP trackage. On May 10, 2004, CN purchased DMIR's parent company Great Lakes Transportation to give total control of the Winnipeg-Chicago corridor and remove the gap at Duluth between DWP and WC trackage.